What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Shady 80, episode 5. So since the end of the last episode, where you saw Dan sort of half make up the intake pipe before he ran out of time and had to go home, that was 2 weeks ago, or nearly 2 weeks. Today is Friday, and that was last Monday. And the last 2 weeks have just been absolutely shocking for me, as far as just trying to get anything done. Literally in these past 2 weeks, I've been able to work 2 days. Just between the young fella had a birthday party and the missus ended up getting called into work, so I spent quite a bit of time just running around getting ready for his party and setting up for his party. Then we had his party, and then we had Mother's Day, and then all this week the missus had to work again, but he's been sick. He keeps getting sent home from daycare, so I'm the one that's got to go sort of pick him up and be at home with him. So yeah, it's just been shocking in that way of trying to get anything done. Awesome for me, obviously, getting to spend so much time with the young fella, but not good for business. So anyway, we're finally getting back into this. As you can see, absolutely crap weather. We're having another record-breaking downfall rain event here. Another 1 in 100-year rain event. This is the second one since February. So yeah, in 3 or 4 months, we've had 2 100-year rain events. So absolute deluge. It's meant to just keep getting worse today, and yeah, not looking good. So Dan was meant to come back out today, and after all of that, even if with the 2-week break, he would have been able to finish off his intake, because we literally haven't had time to even look at it. In all that time, Rex was obviously focusing on getting the patrol all sorted and done, and out the well, sorted as it can be without our dyno, and he's done an awesome job getting that sorted. So it's sort of time to, I suppose, start trying to focus a bit more time into this thing. I've still got a heap of other stuff I need to do, but anyway, Dan was meant to come out, finish off this intake. It was great that he was actually going to be able to finish the piece that he started, and now we can't actually get here. The roads are closed because they're floods, so Dan can't even get out here to work this weekend either, which is a bit of a pain, but anyway, that's all right. We'll, yeah, at this stage, we're going to start looking into the wiring side of things. We got this new program that's called like Auto Data, which allows us to get a lot of access to a lot of the factory wiring maps. So for the VE, there's just a few things in the VE that obviously a lot of you know. They're very integrated, all of the modules, which means a lot of the things on the wiring loom, a lot of the inputs and outputs for certain things are necessary in a conversion situation where you're eliminating pretty much all of those modules except for the ECU. So it's allowed us really good idea to be able to sit down and actually look through all of the information and the data on the VE and actually find out exactly what is integrated with the ECU and what's not, and what doesn't need to be reused and what can be removed from the loom. So that's what we're sorting out. Our new LS1 alternator has arrived finally. That took a little while, but we can chuck just the LS1 alternator on this thing now and change that plug on the loom so that we've got the alternator that doesn't have the smart charge regulator in it. And yeah, keep on getting this thing on its merry way. Like I said at the end of the last episode, it's wiring and a few other little bits and bobs. There's actually a whole heap left to do. It's just a matter of, at the moment, time is not being our friend. The weather's not being our friend. Nothing seems to be being our friend. So we'll see what we can get knocked over in this episode. So for the wiring on the 80, we'll be using the exact same little fuse and relay box setup that we used on the big patrol here. If you remember that episode. So these are a great little MIDI relay and fuse setup. They completely seal. We used to use a brand called Busman, which were also really great and sealed really well, but they've pretty much become nearly impossible to get. I don't know if it's the silicon shortage or what the go is, but for whatever reason, the non-bust versions of them are pretty much impossible to find. So we started using these, and we're really happy with those. So that's what's getting used on the 80 as well. So it's awesome, particularly in a 4-wheel drive, having a completely sealed box, and it's obviously really great in a conversion situation to have just one fuse and relay box running the whole conversion, which means obviously if you ever have any issues or anything's happening, you just go to the one place, and that's where all your fault finding's done, and you can check all your fuses and everything else. So yeah, it's really good. It's a really good way to do it. Righto guys, this weather is just not letting up. Whole weekend's been heaps of fun. Anyway, Rex has been powering through this loom situation. I've been doing heaps of boring tack stuff, catching up on heaps of crap that we've got to catch up on. But this is all working out pretty well. So we actually got this is the software I was talking about. It's called Auto Data that we recently got, and it is super handy in that it's basically just a huge big database for automotive businesses to use, and we can go in to VE Commodore and you can find the pinouts for all of the modules and you can even just search for the module you're trying to find, and it'll take you to it. You don't have to trace all the wires to it or anything. It'll take you to it, and you can just check which wires they are on the module end, and then check what they are on the ECU end and stuff like that. And it's just made the whole process of trying to map out the wiring system and get this loom figured out so much easier. Rex is well underway with that happening, and we've just been looking at where's going to be the best place to actually mount the ECU. You know, obviously with a four-wheel drive, inside's ideal because it's as much out of the elements as possible. But these E38 PCMs, actually most PCMs, you know, in Commodores, they are stock in the engine bay. They are IP65 rated. They are waterproof. So it's not necessary that they have to be inside. And given how much modification it takes in the loom to do so, we are pretty much going to mount it in the bay, which is the same thing we did with the last patrol we did. The 6L80, L98 patrol, we mounted it up in that corner on that one. But on this one, we're thinking about mounting it on the back of this battery box.
It works pretty good because that's pretty close to the factory Commodore location.
Yeah, exactly. So not only does it seem to be pretty much the best location in this engine bay to mount it, but it also just so happens to be very close to where it would be in relation to the engine in a Commodore, which would mean that we wouldn't have to modify where the actual ECU plugs are on the loom at all, which saves heaps and heaps of work, which obviously time is money. And the other thing is obviously we try our best not to modify a loom as much as we can, because having any wiring joins in the loom is a no-no. So if you can eliminate having any wiring joins, that's ace. You know, ideally what we'd do is get new plugs and actually just remake the loom if we had to do something like that. But it's proved at the moment that these ECU plugs are very, very difficult to get right now. So anyway, basically it's a great spot to mount it in the car on it, just in general, and also having it mounted in location is really, really good for the wiring situation. So everything's coming up Millhouse. Yeehaw. Even then, it's, you know, it's right up top. Even if you were worried about it getting wet, you've still got a wading depth of, you know, up to here, to the bottom of the guards, which is obviously up past the bottom of the dash inside. So, you know, arguably you actually get even more wading depth. But yeah, anyway, that's just one of those things that people always argue back and forth about, but realistically, it doesn't particularly matter that much. Woo-wee. A lot of wiring, eh, buddy?
A lot of wiring we don't need.
A lot of wiring getting removed that is not necessary. As you can see, we've actually got a half decent day for once in 2 weeks, which is nice. Let the place dry out a little bit. Quinn's here helping out Uncle Rex with some wiring today. Anyway, a lot of stuff in these looms. Rightio, Rex is doing some ECU mounting, getting some stuff out of the way. Getting this how it should be. Yeehaw. Righto guys, so Rex is cracking along with this thing. Lots and lots of just working out how, you know, basically getting all the integration right is the hard thing. So the one I've set in the Cruiser actually they have one of the temperature probes on the head is actually a switch for the AC. So it's to deactivate the AC if the engine gets too hot, which sort of needs to be back integrated, or we just short it so that it doesn't do anything. But either way, we need to find what it is. And there's a few things like that that we're actually just having a lot of trouble trying to find in all the factory wiring. So Rex has just been nutting that out. This is, you know, it's been just all day on the auto data, checking the wiring diagrams of both the donor and the 80 series. And that's where most of the time is in doing this part of the conversion, is just in actually working the stuff out. So, you know, once you find it, it's not actually a whole lot of time in actually bridging it or integrating it or doing something, but actually just trying to work it all out. That's where the time goes. But anyway, as you can see, she's a bit busy here. Got a bit on actually, love. So you can see up here, where Rex mounted the fuse and relay box. So that's just up there behind the air box, and then our ECU is going to be here. So it's going to be a nice tidy little corner that's going to be good. And then, like we talked about, we'll find somewhere else to put a washer bottle. But it's all going to come out good. A lot of working out in the meantime. Righto guys, so it is now the next weekend to the last weekend that we watched when Dan couldn't make it. It's another lovely weather weekend event, but Dan tried to come out this morning. He bought the big wags today, and he's now stuck at the United servo about half an hour down the road from us with a broken alternator bracket. So we're gonna cruise down there and save him, get him back here. But Dan will be back out here today to finish off this intake and do a few other bits and bobs. But yeah, awesome that Dan can make it back out here. It's always good when Dan's out here. So we'll go save him, put a new alternator bracket on the wags, and get him back out here.
Righto, boys and girls, Dan did make it out. We went and rescued him.
We got the door shut at the moment because he's welling up, but I'll show you the big wags. When the door's open again, it's pretty cool. It's Dan's pride and joy.
It's a bit of a weapon. So anyway, Dan's been hard at it.
I haven't been filming much while Dan's been here because I've been working on this thing, but
The intake is coming together. Looking absolute mint. Yeah, mate. Yeah,
coming together.
Fabbed by Raz. Alright guys, so Dan's finished up this intake pipe. Look how freaking good that looks. What a man. How wicked. So as you can see, we get our clearance from our AC pump. Beautiful. Beautiful piece of equipment. It really makes the whole engine bay just look angry too. I love it. Really nice piece. And yeah, the best thing about it all, like we talked about, is that we no longer have to relocate this battery,
which saves us heaps of work, which in turn saves the customer heaps of money. So
can't thank Dan enough for that. All of his fab work on this car has been just top notch A1, absolutely bloody beautiful. So we've got 2 ports in the back here. We've got one which is going to be for the
PCV setup. So we plumb the PCV back into the intake side there, and then the other port is for a intake air temp sensor. So one thing we do see as tuners here all the time, people are deleting MAF sensors from Commodores and stuff, not putting an intake air temp sensor in afterwards. So to have your car tuned MAF-lessly, you need to have an intake air temp sensor. It is how your ECU calculates the air mass in the manifold, because there's 2 most important things when calculating air mass is obviously the pressure and temperature, because at a certain air pressure, if the air temperature is different, it changes the mass or the volume of air. So it's very, very important. You do need to have an intake air temp sensor, and this one is an M14 Boss, because what we use is the VN intake air temp sensors are actually an M14 intake air temp. This is them here. So they're an M14, which means you can screw them in, but they're the exact same calibration as an LS one, a GM LS one. So for all of you guys who are running boosted cars or boosted setups, that's a good little trick tip, because you can actually have a screw-in sensor. You don't have to worry about it popping out on the boost, and it's the same calibration as your GM, so your stock ECU loves it. So anyway, that's our intake. This thing's coming along. So I've got Dan doing some more welding in there and some other stuff while he's here helping us out. So the doors are going to stay shut, but I'll show you the big wags. Oh, this is big Raz's wags. It's so freaking cool. He drives it like everywhere. Little 202 with a roof job. Oh, it's sick. Obviously I've got a big soft spot for wags. You all know that I'm a long roof guy. So I love the old wags. I'm trying to convince Dan to make it fast. He had bought a 6-litre LS to swap into it at one point, but he ended up canning the idea and selling the LS off because he just likes cruising in it with the inline, the 6. But hopefully one day I can convince him to make it fast, because damn, it looks cool.